Knock 3 times on the ceiling if you want me.
There we go.
Hey,
So we are
hey!
absolutely thrilled to be joined by the team from Last Comic Shop. Gentlemen, welcome to live stream for The Cure.
Hey, hey! Well, thank you so much for having us on today. And as always, live from Dr. Octopus's eyeglass repair shop, it is the Last Comic Shop! And I am the host with the most, Andy Larson. And I'm joined by my regular co-hosts, J.A. Scott and Chad Smith. And on today's program, as we always do in the Last Comic Shop, we like to educate you on some comic books that you can pick up in your spare time so that you don't put those wonderful places out of business. We don't want to be the Last Comic Shop. We don't. That's our whole point. We try to bring people into the comic book tent by teaching them about things that they should know about. Like this time when Spider-Man thought it was an awesome idea to go and punch Superman because that was a fair fight. Right,
Why
guys?
not? It was the 70s. It's what people did.
Yeah, they got into like street fights all the time, little tussles out there. Just put up your dukes. It's a turf war, and that's it. Kind of, sort of what it was at some point. We'll get to that in some of the kind of touch-ups when we talk about like how folks wanted to make sure that their signature characters look the best. But again, we're doing the Spider-Man versus or Superman versus the Amazing Spider-Man on today's program.
Battle of the century.
Indeed. Chad has been wanting to hype that for a really long time.
It's the first time Marvel and DC crossed over actual comic characters.
It wasn't the...
It is, as they rightfully put out on the cover, the greatest superhero team-up of all time.
Or the first, I guess that it's depending on what you want to look at. But I will say it wasn't the first time that DC and Marvel actually had a cross publication, right, Chad?
That's true. They had teamed their forces up for The Wizard of Oz, which came out. It was a joint publication. I want to say it was the year before this one came out.
Yeah. This is 1976, by the way. So a couple years before I was born, a couple years actually before J.A. was born too, like 2 or 3. So we unfortunately didn't get it in its wonderful Treasury edition, but Chad has it, as you can see. Chad, you want to show off the goods there a little bit?
It's such a beautiful thing. Yeah, I, as a big Spider-Man fan, this summer I was listening to the Rob Liefeld podcast, and he was talking about this in the Treasury form and just the beautiful pictures. And I was like, all right, I had a previous copy that was smaller in scope. I was like, I've got to shell out for the Treasury. It's worth seeing.
Yeah, it is. And unfortunately, when we talk about comic books that you could maybe go to a comic book shop and pick up, like we like to do on this show, this one's actually a little bit difficult to get, just simply because the higher ups right now at Marvel and DC aren't playing nice.
Well, they're even higher up than that. They're Disney and maybe AT&T. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, hopefully it's all Disney at some point. They buy everything. I think
they'll get there eventually.
They came to my house the other day. They wanted to buy my soul. They were like, "You want to have?" I was like, "Sure. Give me a set of mouse ears. I'm fine with it." But I will say this: that you can only get it in either the Treasury edition. There was also a couple other ways that you could get this, right, Chad?
Yeah, the way I initially got this back in the 90s was a sort of gold bordered copy, which for scope or for scale, much smaller than the Treasury edition.
Well, there you go.
So the gold bordered one, that's a regular comic book size.
Yes, this is your
comic
standard
book size. Right. So just for people who are looking, that's how big the Treasury edition is versus a normal size comic.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
If you can ever track down Treasury editions, there weren't many. I thought there were tons of them back in the day, in the 70s. But like ultimately, it really ran for a couple years. Both Marvel and DC put them out. But if you can ever find Treasury editions, pick them up. I actually have a Fantastic Treasury myself, just really quickly as an aside. This is the Fantastic Four. This actually is the second Treasury edition they ever released, and it contains The Coming of Galactus, which is a really great story. So if you're ever at a comic shop and you find this particular Treasury edition, pick it up, because to see Stan and Jack tell The Coming of Galactus with Silver Surfer and all that great stuff, it's worth your time.
Yeah,
but back
comic book here really quickly. I'm sorry, guys. We got a $200 donation from the Last Comic Shop Kids.
Yeah.
The way this is set up doesn't allow me to see messages, but thank you so much for the $200 donation.
Oh, you're
That is
very
awesome.
Great.
It's for all those kids out there. I mean, again, comic books are for kids. That's what we really recommend here on our program. But go ahead, Chad.
I was going to say, and the Treasury editions weren't just limited to Marvel. I've got the Batman, the Ra's al Ghul saga in that enlarged format. I was able to find one day the Star Wars. The first 6 issues came out. It spread across 2 different issues, 2 different Treasury sizes. And these things, if you can find them, they're just beautiful.
Absolutely. My question to JA is, what would you rather take, a Treasury edition or an omnibus?
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't know, man. It's apples and oranges, isn't it? So for people who don't know, an omnibus is a very large hardback copy of
they're like
comic
reference
books.
book. You could stop doors with them.
Dictionaries with multiple stories, whereas Treasury is usually contained to maybe 2 or 3 comics, but much bigger. So
Yes.
if you want lots of stories, you go omnibus. If you want big, beautiful art and really get into sort of sitting down, both of them require you to basically have a library table in your house somewhere.
Just a large place you can just sit and just lay all these
Yeah.
things out. But no, there's actually some comic book creators nowadays that actually insist upon having their comic books put out in Treasury format. Somebody from the great city of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where we all kind of come from, is Ed Pisker. He does a lot of his books in Treasury format, such as X-Men Grand Design, and I think Hip Hop Family Tree was also in that Treasury format. And you can get some Marvel ones right now. I'm trying to think. The History of the Marvel Universe was recently put out in Treasury edition by Mark Wave and Javier, or is it Javier? Yeah, Javier Rodriguez, I think, is the guy.
Or
that drew
Polito.
that. Oh, is it? All right.
Is it Javier Polito?
Any
That's
case,
not what we're reviewing. Yeah.
we're not reviewing that. We're reviewing Superman versus the Amazing Spider-Man. And before we get into today's review, I wanted to give an opportunity to kind of throw out to my 2 co-hosts. I mean, obviously, Superman versus Spider-Man is not a fair fight. Like, it's just not. It's just for fun and kicks. But what would be a fair fight?
And
if
money.
You were, and money.
And money.
And money. There we go. We got to get at least a couple of those in today's program. But real quickly, if you were going to put somebody from the Marvel Universe up against the Man of Steel, who would be your picks? J.A.? I think I know who yours is, but...
Well, I mean, it would be too obvious to say the Silver Surfer, wouldn't it? But the problem is, I don't see, like, the Silver Surfer and Superman are very similarly bland in terms of sort of being the ultra nice guy. So they'd end up just talking the whole time. It would be like the end of the Vision versus Vision fight from WandaVision, except that you wouldn't get any of the action bits. You would just get the talking the whole time.
Oh, yes.
Talking about ships and replacing wood.
Who's that guy?
So for more action, maybe I'd have to go with somebody like the Hulk, who's
Okay.
at least got, unbridled power, or Thor.
Yeah!
especially Cosmic Thor.
Right. I was gonna mention Cosmic Thor. We did review that earlier on our podcast. Again, www.lastcomicshoppodcast.com. You can listen to our Thor review, and on that book, specifically, Thor kills Galactus. So I think he's got a chance of hanging with Superman. But I do say another book that we covered on today's... Go ahead, Chad.
I was going to say, there's only one character from the Marvel Universe that could defeat Superman.
What's
Everybody
that?
knows it. It's Squirrel Girl. She beats everybody.
And that's a good point. It all depends on the writers. Like, it all depends on the writers at the end of the day. Like, we can all have these conversations about power levels or whatever, but at the end of the day, verses are only good if there's a good story behind it. And,
Or good art.
Or good art. That's true. Like in today's book, the art, exemplary. The story, it is what it is. And but we'll get to that in a second. I was thinking of other folks that could kind of hang with Superman. I always keep on thinking back to the Wonder Woman from Wonder Woman Dead Earth, where he just punched it through the chest and then used his skull and spine as a weapon.
She's straight out of Mortal Kombat, just whipping that stuff around.
So maybe the Better Rebuild book that's out now that you can pick out at your comic book shop, maybe Better Rebuild would be a good one, because that's Daniel Warren Johnson. There you go.
There it is.
Yeah, and he did that book too. So those would all be good picks, other than Spider-Man. Even Hyperion, they've got a good book out there too. I think Hyperion recently flew through Galactus in one of these issues of the new Heroic Age or whatever book that they're coming out with now. Go ahead.
The Heroes Reborn.
Yeah,
I just thought of a dark horse. What if Superman went up against Kitty Pryde?
He just fly through her.
His power set would be almost completely useless against somebody who just phases through things.
I think you just wanted to bring up Kitty Pryde on this program, and right, so she's.
Superman, you're a jerk.
You are a jerk, Superman. We'll get to that.
Accusatory point.
Yes.
Every time.
$10 donation from Julio of the Contrarians podcast, and what he says is, if I can refresh this, for Cosmic Spider-Man, bring back Captain Universe.
Oh, there you go. There, you know what? Back in the day, Julio, my cousin and I used to have arguments. Same thing. We were 13 years old, and J.A. would oftentimes say to me, "You know what? Superman or Spider-Man could never hang with the Silver Surfer. Silver Surfer is way too powerful." And I would just be like, "What about Cosmic Spider-Man?" And he's like, "Well, I guess, you know." And I was like, "Come on, at least throw me a bone there." I mean, there you is. See, there's again, mismatched fight. But Julio, that was a great pull. Anybody with Captain Universe powers, because again, that's another power set that the writers can give them anything. Like, they could do anything. They could be like, "I brush my teeth really fast, and so therefore I've got Captain Universe powers." There you go. But yeah, on today's program, we're going to be talking about Superman versus the Amazing Spider-Man. And again, it was released in 1976. And again, it's the first joint publication that featured comic book characters from these two big comic book camps. I mean, for this entire 60s, these guys were at each other's throats. I mean, DC was the established, premier superhero comic company out there, and Marvel was the up-and-comer, the fresh new company. And so in the mid 70s, there was a guy that came up with an idea of putting these two folks together. Now, Chad's going to tell this story because he tells it much better than I do. So, Chad, how did this book first come about?
Well, so if you're familiar with Woodward and Bernstein and that whole Watergate thing, well, it turns out their literary agent, his name was David Obst, had some pull and had some fame, and he made it his mission to get Superman and Spider-Man together to make a movie. But the problem was the Spider-Man TV show was in production and the Superman movie was already in production, and those stars weren't going to align just yet because it would throw off everybody's plans. But what they could do was come together and make a comic book. And so that's the part where it gets real fun. And J.A., you can go through some of the people that are involved here. Just give us the rundown of those that are credited.
Really quickly, sorry. We have a donation of $25 from Mr. Mikey Wood. Hear me out. Ben Grimm, but made of kryptonite.
Ben Grimm! See, that's why we like Mikey. Hey, Mikey, stick around. Be our stat boy. Keep us honest on this program, because it's very true. I think Ben Grimm against anybody, regardless, I don't think he's going to take much guff from Superman, especially if Superman starts acting out of line. Like, Ben Grimm's always he's the heart and soul. He's our moral conscience and our compass. So, like, Superman starts being a douchebag, Ben Grimm's going to step in and go, this ain't flying on Yancey Street.
And it's not out of line for Reed Richards to make some sort of rock to kryptonite conversion ray for the purpose of 2 or 3 issues.
That is true.
That would totally fly.
That's right. He's like, I got my boys back. I'm Reed. I can make up these crazy things. I got that big brain.
Probably Ben. It would end with Ben Grimm getting stuck in Antarctica in some fortress of icicles somewhere.
Yeah.
Probably
He always gets screwed.
frozen
He
to the
does.
side.
Reed
He
gets the
does.
glory, and Ben takes the hit.
in the chops.
Yes.
All right, so yes, who was involved with this project, JA?
we've got a who's who lineup of comic book personalities and creators from the 70s here. Obviously, it was presented by, later changed to edited by, and Chad will get into that, by Carmine Infantino and Stan Lee. Written by Jerry Conway, because he had written both for DC and Marvel at that time, so he knew both, and he'd written both for Spider-Man and Superman, so he knew both characters, so they felt that he could do it. It was primarily drawn by Ross Andru. He gets the credit on the book, but there are some people who stepped in and provided some help on that. Inked by Dick Giordano, lettered by Gaspar Saladino, colors by Jerry Serpe and Rick Taylor, produced by Sol Harrison with an assist by Jack Edler, and then you've got all of the consulting editors: Roy Thomas, Julius Schwartz, Marv Wolfman, E. Nelson Bridgewell, just a who's who of 1970s comic book.
Anybody
creators.
that wanted to put their name on the book at the time: Dick Cavett, Cher,
That's
Sonny
right, they're all in
Bono.
there. I think
The
Neil
guys
Adams
that
put
Rowan
those
and
on the
Martin.
Muhammad Ali cover, at least. A lot
and
of those
McMahon
guys.
probably stepped in at one point. It was and it's great. And there's some talent that doesn't get the credit, in this particular, because in terms of the art, there was Terry Austin. He actually was the assistant, kind of like an intern at that time, right, Chad?
Yeah, for Dick Giordano. And that was the thing that I brought up the Rob Liefeld podcast. I didn't know any of the backstory to this. But when this was coming out, as the pages were coming in, Ross Andru, he's a great artist in his own right. And Andy can attest, those 70s issues of Spider-Man with Ross Andru, those are some of the best. They're the most fun.
Right. He is. When I think back to my definitive Spider-Man, I often think of Ross Andru. I'm trying to think of Gil Kane or John Romita, but I'm like, no, it's actually Ross Andru, because those are the issues that I paid attention to. But go on.
But as the pages were coming in, I learned John Romita was doing touch-ups on a lot of the faces for Marvel, as he would do, because he was the art director and he would touch up faces all the time on all kinds of books. But this was like an all hands on deck. We want this to look the best that it could possibly be. Right. And so as the pages were coming in for Dick Giordano to ink them, his buddy Neil Adams was in the studio and was like, hey, you mind if I have a go at these? And so little did I know that Neil Adams had touched up a lot of the Superman stuff in this issue. And I've talked to Neil Adams in real life before, and I was asking him about restaurants in Chicago. I should have been asking him about Spider-Man versus Superman.
He might have talked to you about it. Those were good questions, by the way, about the restaurants. That was hard-hitting journalism at its best.
That's right. Chicago dining is fantastic. Anyway, beyond the point. Let's get to back to business.
But who was touching up the Spider-Mans, right? You didn't? Did you say that?
Oh yeah, John Romita was on the Spider-Mans, and then we already talked about how Terry Austin, he was like the background guy, and Terry Austin went on to be one of the best inkers. One of my personal favorites, who inked John Byrne, Art Adams, and then Bob Wycheck filled in. There's a host of really great talented people on this.
Yeah, it's often I say, I love John Byrne with Terry Austin inks, and I think Chad said to me once, he mentioned, he's like, could you just be a Terry Austin fan? Is that really what's
he made everybody better?
He did
better.
Oh, and he's wonderful. He's wonderful. So it's a who's who, and that's really when it comes down to it. And again, from Jerry Conway does a good job with the script as much as he can. I like Jerry Conway. He was primarily one of my favorite Amazing Spider-Man writers, and he wrote, for example, he's the guy that killed Gwen Stacy. So you don't get the end of the Silver Age without Jerry Conway. He actually went against higher ups that said, no, don't do it. And he was like, no, I'm going to do it. And so he killed her, and that kicked off the Bronze Age. So, but yeah, Jerry Conway's, I still read his stuff. I think a couple years back, when Spider-Man and Mary Jane were still broken up because they refused to put those two lovebirds back together, he was writing a great book, I think called Renew Your Vows. which basically told the story of what had happened if they stayed together and they had a young daughter and they were all like a superhero team together. And it was neat. And I really, really enjoyed that book. And it was because of the Jerry Conway script. Now this is something else. And JA is going to give us the 10-cent synopsis of what happens.
Oh boy. So
in this particular. Now, hopefully Chad can help by showing some of the panels that sometimes we're talking about here.
This exists in a world where Metropolis and New York City are on the same general existence. So,
do you, real quickly, do you know where Metropolis is?
Wasn't it down in Delaware?
Yes. Gotham's in New Jersey, rightfully so, but Metropolis is in Delaware, for those folks that may not know. That's another thing I learned from Chad.
It's probably like pretty close to Philly.
Yeah, they're all on the I-95 corridor.
They're I-95 corridor, so there's an I-95 bias to the Superman and Batman stories.
Really quickly, we got a $25 donation from Leah. Says, awesome show. Love that you guys are raising money for charity. You guys are superheroes.
Thanks, thank
Leah.
you so much, Leah.
Well, I would say we're not superheroes. We just play them on television from time to time.
Or Twitch. We play them on Twitch.
The 10-cent synopsis, essentially, Lex Luthor and Doc Octopus, they're the big bads for this film, or this comic book. They are thrown into prison together, where they had to plan to break out of prison with the help of some Lex Luthor's specially hidden gadgets underneath some external skin that he just peels away.
Yeah, he just peels away his skin. He's got a lockpick in there. Brilliant.
So they break out of jail with the idea that they will team up so that they can help take out each other's big superhero bad guy or nemesis.
We got to show this panel where they make the beast with two backs.
Yes.
Like, what's going on with this? Like, Lex Luthor is riding on his, going, wee!
All I will say is that panel, if you can see it, they needed different color jumpsuits. The legs get confused. You
don't know whose
legs are whose. Yes.
Yikes.
So they team up, and Lex Luthor ends up impersonating Superman and kidnapping Mary Jane and Lois Lane. So Spider-Man gets angry at what he thinks Superman did and goes to find Superman and confront him. And Lex Luthor shoots Superman with this red sun ray beam, which makes him strong or actually makes Superman weak. And so Spider-Man starts beating up Superman up until the point where the red beam wears off, and then Spider-Man is just hitting a brick wall, and Superman's like, yo, dude, chill.
And then they team up.
Take a Xanax.
And then they team up. They go to Kilimanjaro because this book is crazy. They end up in space where Lex Luthor and Doc Octopus have taken over a space station a la Moonraker. This is all like very 1970s Ian Fleming, James Bond going on here. And that's about it. That's the story. I think I'm sure I missed some of the crazy stuff, but
but that's a good 10-cent synopsis, and you're absolutely right. This script is bonkers. Like, again, the fact that, like, first off, Lex Luthor has a red kryptonite beam, which I don't even know if they ever alluded to previous to this story or after this story. It seems like it's the slam dunk. Like, I don't know why Lex Luthor doesn't just use this all the time and be like, you know what, I'm just going to douse everybody with this so they can just take pot shots at Superman. But
because, spoiler alerts, at the end of the day, Dr. Octopus makes the hero turn. And he takes that gun down with him. He makes sure that crazy Lex Luthor is not going to blow up the world with his giant tsunamis.
That's right. That's right. That's the thing. Like, at some point, Lex Luthor does go say, you know what's a good idea? None of this stuff I talked about previously. Just destroying the Earth. Because, heck, I don't need to live there anymore. That's not where all my stuff is. It's all on this awesome space station. I'm okay up here. I've got canned goods and lots of Navy beans. So Superman and Spider-Man fight for a little while, and then again they take a jaunty trip to Mount Kilimanjaro, and they get there by Spider-Man wearing like web skis that
Yes.
somehow allow him to fly. I don't know. When pulled by Superman, odd stuff. But that's what my initial thoughts are of this particular book. And it's just, this is typical Saturday morning fare. Like, this is not a book that anybody should go into taking seriously. Like, if you're into, like, yeah, I want to read some serious comics, go read Watchmen. Go read Dark Knight Returns. Go read something like that. Or read something like, more modern or something. If you want to have fun, if you want to remember when, comic books were genuinely written for those people between 9 and 16 years old. And, again, they were just basically fun stories in which the bad guys were bad guys and the good guys were good guys.
And there were giant robots that toppled cities that would be news for years. But
That's
here's
right.
like another day.
Then you just read this book because that's what it is. It's an episode of Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends or an episode of the Super Friends, just kind of mashed all together. And, it doesn't make a lick of the sense most of the time, but it doesn't have to because you got this gorgeous art. You got this gorgeous art by some of the biggest names of 70s comics, Silver Age, Bronze Age comics on this book, dude. It is good just for that reason.
I will
But,
say the one thing that struck me about this book, there's Doc Ock getting smashed in the face. He's going to go full Velma after that. It can't find his glasses. But no, the thing that struck me about this book as reading it, and it is definitely just tons of fun, but it's really fun to watch how big of a jerk both Superman and Spider-Man could be at various times in this book. Like, it starts off with Clark Kent going into New York City and just trashing New York and be like, this place is filthy. and when he's fighting Lex Luthor, they're fighting underwater, and Superman uses his X-ray vision to make a hole in the boat. He's just going to drown Luthor. Like,
Superman, just flat out murder him. It's fine. He's like, you need some water in your lungs. It's okay.
That's it. But Spidey's...
But yeah, it's Spidey's no better for sure because again, this is 70s Spider-Man. I don't mind it because this is like a younger Spider-Man. He's in his early 20s, and if you've ever remember being in your early 20s, you wanted to take pot shots at people, and so especially when they're messing with your lady, and so he comes over and he's like, "Hey, Superman, hey sucker." Take this in the face, and he swings in. He's like, "Yeah, Superman ain't that tough. I'll keep popping him in the throat a couple times."
Yeah, 70 Spidey didn't take guff from anybody. Like, there's the J. Jonah Jameson scene, which I love every scene J. Jonah Jameson is in. But Spider-Man's telling him off, and then he's going off to cover the story. He's going to do it on his own. Who's going to pay for those pictures, buddy? You just told off your boss. And then he meets Superman, and then the thing that gets me is Superman is mad at Spider-Man because a robot Superman kidnapped their girlfriends. I don't understand that.
And Spider-Man happened to be maybe in the area, so he's like, crime adjacent.
He's like, he put on my costume for a few seconds, did all this, then put his other costume back on. And now he's swinging around, making a fool of me in front of all of New York City. This dump, this trash heap. How dare they? These hobos are laughing at me.
But instead of talking it out, he decides he's going to punch him for a real long time. And the other thing, they shoot Spider-Man with this weapon that could, take out Superman. Why has Lex Luthor never shot himself with that radiation gun to take out Superman? Spider-Man's a good guy. They're so confused.
But that's what makes this so much fun. It is just your, 1970s B action flick. There is no point other than to just enjoy it, get a bowl of popcorn, sit down, and just have fun with it. It's not supposed to make sense. It's not supposed to be hard-hitting. It's supposed to get Superman and Spider-Man punching each other because that makes for great art panels.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And it does. And then they have to shake hands and be pals. Like, oh, I'm sorry, Superman. Oh, I'm sorry, Spider-Man. And then Superman's like, I'll be a jerk to other people, because he is. He is a tremendous douchebag through this entire book. There's at one point when Superman, they destroy some sort of computer in this I don't know, volcano base that nobody noticed. Like nobody noticed that Lex Luthor built a base inside of Kilimanjaro, which is like a national landmark. But yeah, I'll put a base in there. It'll be fine. And so they basically go in there and they smash this, Lex and Dr. Octopus smash this computer so that ultimately, right, go ahead.
But it was saved
Yes!
because Superman used his super speed and photographic memory. I mean, this is in the era when if you needed a Superman to have a power, you could just give him a power.
Yes. Yeah. But he's like a colossal jerk about it too. He's like, oh, by the way, you need this done. I've got photographic memory and super mega computer skills that I can rebuild this thing from scratch. No problem, Spider-Man. Now I'll let you just do some typing. Some light typing. You're my temp. It's fine.
That's right.
I could probably do that,
Spidey.
I could probably do that faster than you, Spider-Man, just in case you forgot.
Right.
But yeah.
Or like when they go to Africa, the Maasai present an honorary goblet of their finest food to Superman, mixed with like cattle blood and milk. And they're like, "Here, Superman, have this. It's an honor to give this to you." And he's like, "Yeah, no, thank you, no."
No, exactly. Not like uses his super speed to like pretend to drink it and throw it over his shoulder or whatever. He's just like, no thanks. I spit on your traditions. It's fine. This is not my Superman. I'll be this. I don't care. These are sacred things to you. You know what? Do you have a hot dog? Do you have a Coke? I'm one of those ugly at that point. Red, white, and blue, baby. Number one. But yeah, but he keeps it up through. I mean, the only great thing he does is he does stop a massive tsunami from destroying the planet
by going really fast and knocking it down with sound waves. So yeah. But it did give you that really nice panel. Yeah. The tsunami panel was great. Was great.
It is, but at the same time, it's to your point. They can give this is pre-crisis Superman. You can give him whatever power you want. Do you want him have knock over huge waves with his shoulder? Just put a shoulder block into it. It's fine. It's Superman. What are you gonna say? What are you gonna say? He can't do that? He literally moved the Earth backwards to save his girlfriend at one point. Like he can do anything.
He can do what he wants.
I can do what I want. But but that's not why you read this book. You read this book for the terrific art and you just want to have fun with it. And so it's still a good book to read for that. And I think that's what we'll get into now really quickly, because I do want to spend some time at the end talking about some other things. But let's get into ratings. Ratings. As you may know, on our particular program, we always have the audacity to tell people that like spend lots of time on these books, a lot more famous than we, that we are going to rate their books. We're going to put a 1 out of 4 scale and we're going to assign a numerical value to it just because we're like Superman and we can do it. This is our show.
We do what we want.
We do what we want. You want to build computer built? We'll do it. It won't be that great, but we'll do it. So J.A. Scott always likes to do this on a 1 out of 4 scale. He likes to give us a specific way to rate our books every week. So J.A., what is our rating scale for this week?
So I've gone back and forth on this, and I've decided that because of that nice long list of contributing artists at the front of this book, we are going to rate this 1 out of 4 consulting editors.
Because I was one at that time. I was a glimmer in my dad's eye, but I still got
everyone could have been a consulting editor on this thing.
That's right. It's like you showed up at that office that day with donuts. You're a contributing editor, sir.
I think Mikey Wood was alive, so he's probably on one of these pages.
There you go. Yeah, Mikey, if you were, give us a shout out and let us know.
He might be in the letter column. He was a letter column kid.
Yes. He was typing in, on his, his CNC back in the day. He was like, well, ABS. Anyways, so 1 out of 4 scale, contributing editors. We're going to start off with Chad Smith. Because he has this in Treasury Edition, so he is our expert.
That's right.
So
little tidbits about the Treasury Edition versus the subsequent reprints.
Right.
And the Treasury Edition, it is presented by Carmen Infantino and Stan Lee. In the reprint, it is changed to edited by Carmen Infantino and Stan Lee. Dun, dun,
There
dun.
you go. So
And
downgrade a little bit.
yeah, and as they bumped up as editors, they weren't doing their job because they pulled their scans from the Spanish copy of the text and the original.
Right.
When Lex Luthor and what's his name?
Doc Octopus.
That's the guy. When they're
That's
in jail,
that dude. He's that guy.
the security guard has a badge that says security, but in the reprint it says Securidad. Dun dun dun. Editorial gaffes. But anyway,
That's what my kids call me when I don't let them get enough video game time. They call me Securidad. I don't know. I just needed to use the sound effects.
there you go.
So
But
how
no-
many can go ahead?
This book, it's beautiful, it's fun, there's so many little moments. We didn't talk about the time when everything starts to go haywire and Peter Parker and Clark Kent are both at this news center, and Peter Parker runs up to Clark Kent and he's like, where are the payphones? I need a phone booth.
And he's like,
that
the
was
Port
great.
Authority got rid of all of them.
Yeah, it's the
back in the
70s.
day, they were
They're all
trying to get rid of the hobos. But yeah. So 3, 4, what are you doing?
And so the story itself is a little on the shaky side. It was just an excuse to go out there and have fun and put these guys in these situations. And so the plot, when you get down to it, it's like Luthor wants to kill everybody, but Doc Ock's like, that's where I keep my stuff. No way. I don't know. But the art was so beautiful and the experience was so fun, and it's something that it definitely deserves to be seen on the grand scale. I'm gonna go 3.5 assistant editors or 3.5 contributing editors.
Wow.
Maybe a little kid in the office that day,
Right.
shuffling around, changing all the words to Spanish. Who knows?
He's like, oh, my dad brought me to work that day and I don't like him. He's the Securidad. He's fine. JA, what's your rating for this particular book?
Yeah, I'm on the same page with Chad a bit. It was a fun read. I didn't go in expecting seriousness, and I got a just large helping of 1970s kish. It's just, toes that Silver Age, Bronze Age line perfectly. All the big panels of the fight scenes with like kapow and bomb and one thing that we didn't mention enough is how colorfully fun Lex Luthor's costume is through the whole thing. It's the this
The purple tunic.
and green tunic, and it's got these cross sword. I don't know what it looks like. Little.
It's like his pill bottle, like for his Propecia and stuff that's not really working.
And the biggest collar you've seen since John Travolta. In fact, this came out before, so maybe that's where John Travolta's look in Saturday Night Fever was inspired by, because he's got a massive collar.
Right. I mean, he's got to keep the sun off of that, but he doesn't want to get too much sun on that.
A solid 3 contributing editors.
Okay. All right. Well, if I was going to rate this on art alone, I'd give this a 4. No problem. Because this art is tremendous. This is my jam. These kind of artists, again, when you talk about Ross Andrew being my definitive Spider-Man artist, you've got Neil Adams, you've got John Romita, you've got Terry Austin on ink, you've got Dick Giordano on ink. You've got all these wonderful talents putting together a book, which is just a visual sight to behold. Like, if nothing else, go to your local comic book shop, pick up this book just to enjoy the art, because you won't be disappointed. To the guy's points, the script, it's other bananas. Like, it's nothing. Again, if you watch an episode of Super Friends, it's again, the bad guys are bad guys, the good guys are good guys, the good guys fight for no reason, then hug and kiss and make up, and then they're friends for no good reason. It just, again, doesn't make any sense, one way or the other. And again, they make jaunty trips all over the place just because that's what they used to do. The notion that this used to be a movie, it makes sense. You would do that in a movie. You would go to Mount Kilimanjaro because that's what you can do. You'd go up into outer space and have a space station up there because you can do that in movies. And in fact, one of the best ones is the fact that Spider-Man gets his own spaceship, which only used to happen when I used to put my Marvel Secret Wars figure in an X-Wing. And like, throw it across the living room. That's the only time Spider-Man ever got close to a spaceship.
Yeah, how does he get a rocket ship license?
Yeah,
Like,
but
his own ship and
and
everything.
we should mention they do give a shout out to the Spider-Mobile.
Oh, they do. That is true. Doc Ock shows up, or it's Lex Luthor, or one of it shows up in some gaudy looking super villain thing, and he's like,
Oh,
"Oh,
it's the octopus blimp."
that's the worst thing since you get the Spider-Mobile, you get a super villain vehicle like that, you get a free bowl of soup. Looks good on you though."
Yikes.
But yeah, the script is bananas. It doesn't make any sense, so it's going to bring it down a little bit. I'm going to give it a 2.75. So that's like 2 editors and then one guy that really wanted to be an editor, showed up a lot of time, but then they only wrote his first name on on the page. They were like, "And Joe," and so they did it. So, but 2.75, it's still worth it. It's still worth it. You got to pick it up. If you can, at your local comic book shop. And some other things to pick up at your local comic shop are our recommendations. As oftentimes on the Last Comic Shop, we give you other comic books to check out at your local comic shop so that they don't go out of business. We've got a similar book, a current book, and a book out of left field. So really quickly, guys, let's go over our recommendations for this week. We're going to start off with a similar book because it's actually included in the same collection as Superman versus Spider-Man. If you can find DC Marvel Crossover Classics Volume 1 at your local comic shop, you can also pick up, Chad?
You can get Marvel and DC present The Uncanny X-Men and Teen Titans. This book was written by Chris Claremont with art, and we'll show you the full spread of the cover here, but the art by Walt Simonson. And this is not just one of the best crossovers I've ever read, where it's Chris Claremont, so you know he's going to handle the X-Men well. They have a whole Danger Room sequence that's tons of fun and helps you, even if you've never read an X-Men book before, you can figure out all the characters right off the get-go. But then he goes into the Teen Titans and picks up from Marv Wolfman. And this is right as the Teen Titans were approaching their heyday. And he handles all the Titans really well. He brings in Deathstroke as one of the bad guys. And then he brings out 2 of the biggest bads possible, the Dark Phoenix and Darkseid, as they team up.
Nice.
Super emotional. You get Scott Summers turning into it's the first time he gets the Phoenix Force in here.
There you go.
But no, this book, it's not just a great crossover, and it has all of those parts of a crossover that you would want, where the heroes fight, and then the heroes join forces, and they shake hands, and then Kitty Pryde gets a crush on Beast Boy, who I think at this time was Changeling, and then Colossus gets jealous, but he had been messing around during Secret Wars, and so he's in the doghouse anyway. But this is one of the best comic books, I think, that I've ever read. It's in my top 10 of all time. It is The Uncanny X-Men and the New Teen Titans. It is a masterwork, and like I said, there's so many great things about it. Changeling turns into a giant dragon. We all know Kitty Pryde has that thing for dragons.
There you go. Yeah.
The art is beautiful. The action's there. The character motivations, like Starfire's worried about the Phoenix destroying her planet. Like, everything meshes and melds, and it's beautiful and it's perfect in every way.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, I'm going to take the current pick for this week. And this came out of 2019, so it's still available at all your comic book shops. And it is actually a fair fight. Unlike Spider-Man versus Superman, now it's time for Superman to test his mettle against somebody that can actually beat his bum. And that would be the most powerful man in the universe, He-Man. Yes, it is Injustice versus the Masters of the Universe by Tim Seeley, with art by Freddie Williams III. And it is kind of a sequel to a previous DC crossover between the Masters Universe and another classic cartoon franchise, Thundercats. They basically teamed up earlier, and as a result of that particular event, He-Man actually had to reveal to the entire planet of Eternia that he was actually Prince Adam. So he had to give up his secret identity. And so that's where this book starts, as you have a very conflicted He-Man in which he doesn't really know if he really is He-Man or he's Prince Adam. Like who is supposed to be who is he really, inside, like deep down? Which part of his personality does he really, you know, uh, equate more to? Because he had to play these two roles for so long. And so while this is all happening, Damian Wayne and a bunch of resistance fighters from the Injustice universe, which, if you happen to not know, that is a weird universe they set up for video games in which Superman becomes a real big jerk and ends up setting up a totalitarian regime and just ends up killing a bunch of folks. Because I think Lois dies. That's what
the
happens.
Joker kills Lois. The books are real good by Tom Taylor. They're
Okay.
worth checking out.
Yeah. So in this particular book, they come to Eternia and the Masters Universe to get He-Man because they know, and I'll say it right here, Superman is always vulnerable to magic. So they get He-Man because, he's magically based and he's got the power of a cajillion suns.
He
or
has
whatever
the
you
power.
want. He has the power. The power. So he comes to basically slug it out with He-Man or with Superman. And really, the great part about this series is that Tim Seeley does an excellent job of kind of reminding us of the importance of maintaining your humanity and your humility when other people might treat you as a god. Like, it's something that we can all kind of equate to in our own lives, where, like, I think it's like kind of like the Tom Hanks factor, in which the more people adore you and stuff, the more you actually have to be more down to earth. You kind of have to still be yourself and be like, hey, I'm allowed to, make fun of myself and be natural and kind and not let it go to my head.
And collect
And-
typewriters.
Exactly.
Which is what Tom Hanks
Or,
does.
just we all need to be Keanu Reeves.
Right. Those kind of
Ride the subway.
Instead of being a jerk about it. And that's why in this particular book, it reinforces the fact that He-Man needs Prince Adam because it's how he stays grounded. It's how he stays connected to the humanity that he's supposed to be protecting. And that's what Superman lost in this Injustice universe. He stopped being Clark Kent. He stopped having that, whether it was because Lois died or whatever, he stopped having that connection to the people you're supposed to protect. And at the end of the day, He-Man had to put him down. And He-Man wins. That's the best part about this book.
Of course He-Man wins. He's a 6-inch figure going up against a 3 3/4-inch figure.
And he's got a sword. He can stab people. Come on. Like, if you can do that, you're going to win any fight. Don't bring a punch to a knife fight. Forget that. It's what Sean Connery taught you. Any case, it's really, really good. You should check it out. J.A., what is our out of left field book this week?
So out of left field is also a crossover, but this time we've got the Incredible Hulk versus Superman. I alluded to this earlier in the show. I said that I thought that would be a good battle, and boy howdy is it. Now this is a story came out in the 90s, I believe, first time. It's been reprinted a couple times by Roger Stern, written by Roger Stern with pencils by Steve Rudd. Al Milgrom did the ink, Jim Novak the letters, Steve Oliff the colors, and it tells a story that takes place back in like the early days of the Hulk, when he was sort of an outlaw in the West and fighting the army all the time. And Superman's gone out there to cover a story about Bruce Banner. But at the same time, because this is a comic book, coincidentally, Lex Luthor is there because he wants to steal Bruce Banner's gamma ray gun that he's been working on and shoot Superman with it. He also knows that the Hulk is in the area, so he creates a robot Hulk to destroy some things so that Superman comes down and starts fighting the Hulk, and then the real Hulk comes and gets angry, and so then you get Hulk versus Superman. And unlike the Superman Spider-Man book we were talking about, Hulk is like the, crazy, angry, sort of dumb Hulk. So they never have a handshake and they never team up. Hulk just goes away.
Good.
You get some great fight scenes. The story is really nice. It's not a bat crazy story. It actually plays really well. And you get Lex Luthor very similar to what he looked like in the first Superman movie. He still has some hair. He's going around in a limo. He's very much the megalomaniac. Sexy Lexi. Yes, the megalomaniac / corporate man, not the superhero in spandex.
He's the Gene Hackman.
I got your stick, Mythaluthor. No, it's a great book, and you should really check it out. I'm a huge fan of Roger Stern's writing. I was a big fan of him, on his run with Amazing Spider-Man, whether Spider-Man was fighting the Juggernaut, or also the time when basically he recreated the Hobgoblin, and then he's got that awesome run in Avengers with Under Siege, and then you got Steve Rude doing the art, which, my gosh, like if you've ever read Nexus, like that's one of my favorite books from the early 80s. And if you see Steve Rude do anything that's like classic Silver Age looking, it's his wheelhouse. It makes it look like, yes, this is a comic book I want to write or read.
It's something that Kirby could have done, or even, Siegel and Schuster. It's got some modern touches and modern sensibilities, but at the same time, it's got that sort of classic. It's like watching a movie that is harkening back to another era. It's like Indiana Jones.
Yeah. So yeah, if
it's
you're a fan of
time and timeless at the same time.
Right.
All sorts of times.
Yeah. Like if you're a fan of Darwin Cook and folks like that, I mean, Steve Rude is I think, it's awesome. But yeah, those are our recommendations for this particular, this week. And we really thank everybody for joining us here on the live stream for The Cure. We're kind of wrapping up our show now. Real quickly, if you ever want to check out us, it's at www.lastcomicshoppodcast.com. It's a terrific place where you can listen to all of our comic book reviews. They're all evergreen. So if you're one of these folks that finds one of these books that we reviewed, at a local comic book shop, and you're like, hey, yeah, I want to see what the Last Comic Shop guys think of this. You can go back, you can listen to our particular program, you can get our thoughts, and maybe we'll give you some more recommendations of other things to check out. You can rate, review, and subscribe at Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, YouTube, CastBox, Pandora, Amazon Podcasts, and a variety of other places, because we're everywhere. And
I was going to say, while we might be the Last Comic Shop podcast, our goal is to not be the last comic shop out there. So if you need to find one near you, you can go to the comic shop locator at www.comicshoplocator.com and find a comic shop near you where you can pick up some cool stuff like Superman versus the Amazing Spider-Man, or Superman and the Amazing Spider-Man, or some giant treasury editions with Superman and Spider-Man. There's all kinds of great stuff out there.
Absolutely. And keep those places in business. They're local businesses. They do need your support. And, again, we don't want to be the last comic shop. We don't. Yeah. We want people to come into that comic book tent, embrace comic books. It's all over there in the media nowadays. There's so many TV shows. There's so many movies. But are you reading the comic books? If you're not, there's a wealth of things that you can read. There's a comic book for everyone out there, whether you're, into anything. You start off with some licensed comic books. Start off with these big characters like Superman and Spider-Man. They're good books, and they'll get you into the medium, and it's a great place to be. So, yeah.
And also, don't forget why we're here is to contribute to a live stream for The Cure. Thank you guys so much for having us and giving us this opportunity to give back. We love to put on our silly little show, but whenever we have the chance to do good, it's always really heartening. So thank you.
You guys have done an absolutely amazing job. Thank you so much. One more donation came in there just a little bit ago. ZZ80 with another $25 donation. So as of the end of this segment right now, we're just knocking on the door of $10,500. We're just about $4,500 away from the goal. And we've got another 12 hours of programming yet to go today. So, I mean, you guys have definitely helped to kind of keep us moving in the right direction and just so much energy. I love it. I just absolutely love it. You guys are so amazing. Thank you guys so much for being here, for taking the time to be part of Live Stream for The Cure. It means absolutely everything to me. When, podcast partners, and not just you guys, but you guys as well, that take the time to, plan a segment, to bring your audience, to take your time and spend your money and everything else. It means more to me than I can possibly say. So thank you for being here. Thank you.
Well, thank you, sir. I mean, we were honored. Genuinely, we were honored. This has been a great time. Honestly, it has been, and it's an opportunity again to raise money for a really good cause. So stick around. There's some fantastic people coming up. Julio from the Contrarians. He's been on my show before. He's awesome.
Now, see, you say that, but he made me watch The Happening.
It was not.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
I mean, he's got some. It's because he wants you to understand what bad movies are, so you have a
Yes.
barometer, so that when you watch,
very true.
You need to feel his pain.
That is
Only then can you truly understand.
it's the plants.
Yeah, Julio.
It's the
Julio
birds.
is the
You
man.
know.
Absolutely love Julio.
Yes.
Absolutely love you guys. Thank you guys so much for doing it. And yeah, just like Andy said, there's tons of amazing people yet to come today. So make sure you don't go anywhere, and make sure throw more dollars at that total. Me and Dan, by the way, in between segments and everything. Last night we hit 9,000, but it was midnight and Dan was already asleep. So we didn't get a chance to do our $9,000 spice challenge, which is a homemade cilantro lime salsa with habanero peppers that I made.
Well,
Oh, wow.
so are you going to do it with us? Can you do it with us? I'd like to see it.
I mean,
I'd
I
like to see
can.
it.
I've already been eating it, but yeah, I mean, it's
We'll do it in front of everyone.
it's so
wants to
good.
see that. Oh,
yeah.
look at that, man.
You have to Google your BTUs.
It's-
What's your?
Is it super hot? Is it?
Well,
is
so I
it-
made, and I made like a bulk amount of it because whenever I cook anything, I make a ton of it. But
right.
I took a portion of it, basically
Okay.
probably about 6 cups worth, and then I just chucked 3 whole habanero peppers into it and pulsed those down into it. So like it hits you, and like it's got that heat that just kind of hangs out on the palate for a bit. But it's
Yeah.
not.
Nice.
It's not anything that's too terrible or too painful. It's perfectly fine. Here's Dan doing the same thing.
Okay. Well, let me see this. Yeah. Oh, there you go.
I mean, it turned out amazing. It really did.
So you're gonna ratchet up the heat as you go? Like
We've
you got
got,
ghost peppers?
We've got a ghost pepper. So I made chocolate cupcakes with a raspberry buttercream frosting. The raspberry buttercream frosting has a ghost pepper hot sauce infused into it for 12,000. And then if anybody's familiar with the show Hot Ones, their last sauce is called the Last Dab. And we got the Last Dab Triple X, and I actually made a chicken wing dip with it, and that's going to be 15,000. When we hit the actual goal, that's what we're eating.
Wow.
And I honest to God cannot wait.
Man.
Yes.
Stick around for that at the very least. You got to see these guys just cry like little.
The sad thing is the real one who cries a lot from spice had his gallbladder removed, so he can't eat it. Like last year when we did the carnivore candy, when we had the jerky that they sent us, like Gerald was crying by the time he was hitting the jalapeno stuff, So I mean, we almost killed him last year, but we would literally kill him this year if we made him eat spicy food because he's under doctor's orders not to do it. So
Yeah, the goal was to help people here, not put more people in the hospital.
Right.
Maybe give them a break.
yeah, so
Did
we
you
got to give
know-
him a break.
Did you know that your taste, your sense of spice, like the sense of spice, whenever you feel, it's not your sense of taste, it's your sense of touch. That's why ultimately, after a while, you get used to spicy foods because it's your capillaries reacting to pain. And if you've ever got punched in the arm a bunch of times, after a while, it don't hurt no more because it's all numb.
Probably because
You're
you're
like,
numb. So
"Yeah."
basically, you're saying you've just gone numb from all the pepper you.
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
does
At that
mean
point, your
that you
tongue
don't?
just
That
taps
you're
out.
Just, yeah, right. Your tongue is like useless for everything.
I mean, I've been doing that.
You-
I've been doing that lately. Like for the past couple of weeks, I've been just eating spicy food just to prep, just to
There
kind
you
of
go.
get ready.
It's
Putting
very
the time in. I appreciate it. Doing the work.
But yeah, gentlemen, I love you guys so much. Thank you guys so much
Yep.
for being here, for raising us, and again getting us. We're knocking on the door of 10,500. We're well over that $10,000 mark now. We're just gonna run toward this goal. Thank you guys so much for being here.
Well, thank you
Alright.
so much.
Thanks a lot.
Have a great
Take
day,
care.
guys.